Thank you, Hannah. It is so great to be here today, and it is such an honor to be able to present about global secure access and planning and implementing a deployment in your production environment. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a senior product manager in the Identity and Network Access Customer Experience Engineering team. I focus on global secure access from a customer experience perspective, which means that I work directly with our largest enterprise customers to understand their key use cases and to help them test and deploy GSA successfully in their environment. But while I'm doing that, what I'm also trying to understand is what other features can we add to improve global secure access. I represent our customer perspective and I bring their feedback back into the feature team so that those ideas can be evaluated and prioritized to improve global secure access. And I just want to jump in quick with a quick comment about why we're actually here today. This is the third session in a three-part series that we've created to focus on small and medium businesses and how to help them enable them with global secure access in their environments. We really wanted to focus on small and medium businesses because we've learned a ton from our enterprise customers, and we want to share these learnings with you. And we're finding that testing and deploying global secure access in small and medium businesses is less complex and moves much faster than in enterprises. So we hope these sessions can take some of the ambiguity out of that process. Our other two sessions were to help businesses decide whether or not global secure access is right for them. And we also did a great session about how to do a proof of concept. That proof of concept phase is so important. And if you missed that session, please go back and have a look. My colleague Luis Flores delivered it. He is incredibly knowledgeable with respect to how to scope and complete a successful POC. And in all honesty, the POC stage is where the heavy lifting occurs. In this session, we're assuming that you've already completed all of your use case analysis, you've tested this thoroughly, and most likely you've tested it in your production environment, so some of that configuration is already done. You know what you're trying to accomplish, and now you really want to understand how to make this happen for all of the users in your environment. So today I'm going to talk to you about how do you plan and implement that deployment, and I'm going to use our public docs to do it. We have a pretty brief agenda today. What I really want to cover is a brief review of the key deployment scenarios and a quick reminder about what it means to complete a proof of concept. Then we're going to go into a little more detail about the deployment framework that we put together for you to enable your success and what are the specific deployment work streams. There are a few subtleties and nuances for deploying for each different product area within Global Secure Access, so we'll look at those too. But our approach today is going to be a little bit different because I want to orient you to our documentation and tools. So while I walk through these topics, I'm going to be bringing up our Learn platform content so that you later can know where to go to get information about how to complete your own deployment. So as you probably already know, the key deployment scenarios for global secure access really are the major motivations behind enabling each of our traffic profiles. And the primary one that we at Microsoft are really excited about, and I really like to focus on, is how can we help you get to a zero trust network access security posture? That is the VPN replacement scenario. So the first set of deployment scenario work streams we're going to walk through is around Entra private access and how can you replace your traditional VPN solution. Our second main deployment scenario revolves around internet access security. And this is configuring and deploying Entra Internet Access, which is a different Microsoft traffic profile, and it's a different license than private access. This is the traffic profile that enables you to secure and monitor your internet traffic. And this is for all of your employees using managed devices by providing a secure web gateway. Within Microsoft Internet Access is also Microsoft Entra Internet Access for Microsoft Traffic Profile. So it's a third product area within Global Secure Access, which is also licensed separately. However, this is often a soft onboarding option to Global Secure Access because of how easy it is to configure and deploy, and the fact that this license is included in some of our other licenses. So you may already have a license to deploy the Microsoft Traffic Profile. That profile gives you the ability to monitor and secure Microsoft traffic, so things like SharePoint Online and Exchange Online. So we have a quick refresher on proofs of concepts. POC is the full focus of our second session in this 425 show series, but I just want to reinforce here what this means because during deployment, we don't really expect you to be actually proving out the scenarios that you need to work in your environment. Proving that those scenarios that are important to you are working successfully is part of proof of concept, and you would typically complete this under trial licensing. If you haven't gone through POC yet, please take a step back and assure that everything works as you expect before moving into deployment. Many of the specific topic areas for common use cases are covered in the POC episode, and while I'll touch on some of them here, it's not going to be in the same level of detail because here we're focused on the actual deployment motions. Basically, before you get to planning your deployment, we would expect that you already understand global secure access product areas and traffic profiles. You already understand the use cases that we can support and how those map to your own requirements. And you probably have already configured some of these features as part of your POC. And we will be sharing links to our guidance and also to the 425 show episodes I've been referencing here as well. So we try to take a traditional project management approach to the deployment framework that we documented in our deployment guidance. And we really hope that you take a look at our introduction to Microsoft Global Secure Access Deployment Guide. I'm going to open that up here in just a second. I'm going to walk through it. So let me just switch over to that now. So here I am in my Learn platform, and I am looking at my Introduction to Microsoft Global Secure Access Deployment Guide. This is the guidance we've published to the Learn platform. You can see that this is the introduction, and you can see in the navigation pane, I've got a few other articles I'll be walking through as part of this session. I really want you to know how to use this guidance so that you can focus on this guidance and help you with your own deployment plan. So we're focusing on that traditional project management approach. And if I scroll through, we can see some of the highlights. First, perform a proof of concept. This is what I was just talking about a few minutes ago. Once this is completed successfully, you're going to initiate your Global Secure Access project. This is the first phase in a traditional project management approach. So here we are, we're going to initiate the project. You'll be getting your business requirements documented, defining your outcomes, defining your success criteria. Basically, what are your key results? Specifically, how are you going to replace your VPN? How are you going to secure your Microsoft traffic? How are you going to secure your internet traffic? Defining these key outcomes is going to enable you to move on to defining your key milestones and defining your high-level schedule so you can allocate resources. You'll identify all of your key stakeholders and you're going to create your RACI chart. So I scroll down here, identifying your stakeholders. We can see various roles, create a RACI chart. I want to point out here, we have a downloadable. This is a template that we created to enable you to start creating your RACI chart. Just try to give you a little bit of a head start. You'll draft your end user communications. So create communications plan. You can see a couple of downloadables here as well. I'll show you a screenshot in just a second of what these templates look like, but just to get you an idea of what kinds of communications you might want to start creating to enable your users to understand what's going to be happening for them. You're going to create your change control plan. You'll draft your project closure plan, basically what's involved to close your project and get your stakeholder consensus. And that'll bring you through the first phase of your project. Then you're going to move on to your next phase, which is planning. And at this point, the project is funded. You'll be moving on to creating your detailed project schedule. So this is your work breakdown structure. Create your risk management plan, identifying your critical path, your risks, defining your performance success criteria. This is really important. Creating a performance baseline of what you expect responsive time to look like for your different product areas. And you'll see we give you some tips for Microsoft Private Access, Microsoft Traffic, and Internet Access here under performance success criteria. Suggestions of things like maybe considering running a user satisfaction survey or a user acceptance survey are also included in here. You may run into issues as part of your deployment that you didn't expect. If this occurs, you will want a rollback scenario. So some support here for planning to create your rollback scenario where you can plan for this in advance and not be in the middle of an issue and trying to figure out how are you going to roll back the users that you've deployed because of some issue that came up. The next phase of a project is execution, and that is really the focus of this whole session. There are aspects of execution that you'll want to complete up front outside of actual deployment waves. This includes things like ensuring that the correct roles are assigned to administrators, preparing your IT support team, completing a pilot deployment to test your deployment procedure. So here we can see some of these high-level descriptions: performing the pilot deployment, any optional requirements you might want to configure, and then actually deploying. And under deploy, you can see we're linking to these additional guides. These are the guides we'll walk through in the rest of this session. You'll also want to plan for emergency access, so break glass scenarios. We have a few other additional considerations that you might want to take a look at: per app access, managing Microsoft traffic profile. Some of these things we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. And as part of your execution, another phase as part of your project is going to be monitoring. So monitoring and controlling, making sure that you have progress monitoring defined. You've identified your issues. How do the issues crop up? How are you going to document these? Efficiency and communications. Are your stakeholders and users happy with the level of communication? You can adjust these things over time, but it requires monitoring so that you can iterate. And then upfront, identify how you're going to close this project. What feedback will you require? What closeout assets will you require? How are you going to archive this for future projects? I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint here. So here are the screenshots of the templates I mentioned. We have a RACI chart in Excel format and a couple of Word docs that you can edit these just for you to get a start on the kinds of assets that might help you with your project planning. So following that project management framework, deploying to production is the execute stage. And so regardless of which scenarios and use cases are in scope for your implementation, your deployment should be repeatable, follow guidelines, include an initial configuration push, and then proceed in waves as you move through user and scenario enablement. The key thing we're really trying to help you get to is how can your deployment be a repeatable process with expected outcomes where everyone can understand whether or not you're meeting expectations. This includes ensuring efficiency and ensuring reliability. As part of this, you're going to create a set of tasks that I'm calling pre-wave work streams, which are the things that you really need to do once, and once they're done, you'll move into your wave deployments. As part of your wave deployments, you'll be onboarding users to your traffic profiles. You'll be moving app segments out of quick access and into enterprise apps. If VPN replacement's one of your scenarios, what we recommend is that you gradually manage these waves and transitions, slowly increasing that user onboarding volume in each wave to ensure that you minimize disruption for your users while also stabilizing any issues you might run into. What we want to get you to is a point where you've maximized the number of users onboarded in a particular wave while managing your support desk call volume. So the pre-wave work streams are the tasks that you need to complete one time and then maybe fine-tune based on your experience or user feedback. This includes things like preparing all of your end user communications. This includes defining the schedule for notifying support, when you're going to notify end users and stakeholders of each wave so that you can set their expectations and everyone knows exactly what's going to happen and what they need to do. These end user communications are crucial, and you may want to create several that go out at different points in your deployment. For example, you might want to send one out early to announce the project is happening at all. And then another one right before a particular group of users is onboarded so that they know it's happening to them now. And then another after it's done so that they know it's already happened and what do they need to do if something has gone wrong. They should understand that you're installing an agent on their workstation and what can they do if they run into any issues. You may want to create a set of communications for support so they know which users are in each wave and then they're prepared to address any support calls. Guidance and training should be completed so that your support team is ready for this. You'll also need to get some Microsoft Entra roles assigned. My experience is this is one of the hardest things to get done, so you'll want to review the requirements and get the request in early. These roles are there for your security and there's no way around them. So I'm just going to quickly pop out of here and show you where you can find the roles, rights, and assignments. So back into the Learn platform. Here I have a document called Microsoft Global Secure Access Built-in Roles. I'm actually in the same TOC as I was a second ago. So if I scroll down, I can see the deployment guides are down here. But I want you to be specifically aware of these built-in roles because like I said, these can be very hard to get allocated and it might take some time. So if I scroll through here, I can see a description of what these different roles mean, but what's really useful is this table here. So these roles are limiting the permissions that your administrators are allocated for each function. And you can see in the table, we've got a description of each role and what each role allows. You may also want to consider using privileged identity management. You can configure these roles assignments to require elevation. And if you're not already using PIM, I recommend that you have a look at that because it's a powerful mechanism to reduce the risk of bad actors getting privileged access to your system. So once these roles are assigned, you'll be able to start doing things like enabling your traffic profiles if you didn't already do that. You want to ensure your licensing is in place. Let me pop back to the slide for a sec. Ensure that licensing is in place, and you may want to consider pushing the client to your user workstations. You can do this in a wave up front. The client will be required by all users, but it will not actually acquire traffic until you start enabling these users in the Entra Admin Center. So you can deploy the client up front, or you can also include that client deployment as part of each wave, whatever is better for your environment. I'm going to bring up the Windows client documentation for a second because I want to highlight our Learn content for client install. So here I am again. This is the Global Secure Access Client for Windows documentation. If you take a look, I'm in the same TOC again that I was just a second ago for roles and for deployment guidance. And there's specific instructions for each of the clients that we support today. I'm really going to focus on the Windows client right now so you can get a sense of what this involves. So we start with some prerequisites. You should have already gone through some of these prerequisites as part of your POC, but you do require Entra onboarded or hybrid onboarded devices. You can install this client manually. So here we have deploy the client. You can download it from the Entra Admin Center and then install it either automated or manually. As if you're doing this in any kind of large scale, you're probably going to do this automated. So we have instructions on here for how do you deploy the client using Intune. Scroll down, you're going to package the client, and I want to get all the way down here to the bottom. So we'll deploy it with using Intune, some different error codes you can configure. Here at the bottom, we have client actions. I want to point this out if you hadn't already configured these earlier in your POC. You have access to these menu options by deploying registry configuration settings. So take a look in this document and see what kind of menu options you might like your users to have. There's different reasons. I'm not going to go through all the descriptions, but these actions can be enabled using registry settings, and they are then going to be available in your system tray icon. So back to the deck. So now we're going to start getting into the nitty-gritty of your deployment. You've done all the foundational work, you're ready to start your wave deployments. And so here is a high-level process that you can use, that we use to create your work breakdown structure. You're going to start by identifying the user groups that you want to enable in each wave. You might want to do that all up front. You'll schedule each wave. Is this going to be a weekly deployment, twice weekly deployment, a couple times a month deployment? It will matter about your support desk, how much your support desk can handle, how many users you want to do in each wave, what your milestones are, and if you're also going to be working in between this with other work streams like onboarding per app access. So for each wave of users that you're onboarding, you're going to send out your end user communications to let that group know what's happening and what to do if they have issues. You'll deploy the client if you haven't already done so. And if there's any issues, you're going to adjust your configuration as needed, test and resolve those issues. If needed, you'll refine your communications and plans and move on to the next wave. And this is how you will continue to iterate through each one of your user onboarding waves. So let's take a look at specifically what you want to think about for private access deployment. Private access is the feature of global secure access that enables that phased approach to zero trust network access. In many cases, we find that companies want to start with quick access because that's the fast way to move users off of VPN. They can configure quick access in POC and ensure that all of their applications are accessible, and then onboard users in waves, and then start moving app segments out of quick access and into enterprise applications to get to that zero trust network access goal. I really want to emphasize this, and I'm going to continue to do so actually, because getting those app segments into enterprise applications is the ZTNA goal. It's not quick access. The enterprise application part is what gives you the ability to get really granular in your conditional access policies. You can include MFA and device compliance right to a particular app segment. And you may want to implement PIM to require permissions elevation prior to accessing some of those app segments. So I'm going to pop over again to our deployment guidance. So back to the Learn platform. And here I'm going to go back to my introduction. Okay, so here I am back in the TOC, Global Secure Access Deployment Guides, and we've already walked through introduction. So I want to take a look at private access first. And I'm going to spend most of the time that I have left in this section because these deployment guides are focused on the execute phase of your project, and we've developed them intentionally to be very parallel with each other. They're really only trying to highlight the nuances between each of these deployment approaches. So if I scroll through here, you can see we have a brief introduction. And then we're going to say identify and plan for key use cases. Some of this you've already done. You did that as part of your initial planning, but now we're going to start executing on this. And so in this execute stage, we wanted to move into more of a step-by-step approach. So testing and deploying Microsoft Entra Private Access, and you can see we give just very clear steps with links into more detailed documentation. Some of this stuff you maybe have already tested as part of your POC. We want to just make sure you understand what you need to schedule. Basically, what are the tasks you need to schedule in your work breakdown structure? So probably at this point, since you're following our plan, you've already gone through the first few steps. You've already created your communications, you have a rollback plan, you know who your pilot users are, and they're already defined in a group. The private access profile is already configured, and you've already set up your connector servers. So if you are ready to move into ZTNA and do per app access, you can do step 6. But if what you're doing first is quick access and moving your users on, you would save that step for later, and you'd move on to user onboarding in step 7. Communicating expectations to your pilot group, deploying the client if you haven't already, configuring any conditional access policies, and then test. And then if needed, update your configuration and retest. This is that repeatable process that we're trying to get to so that you can iterate on your waves and take all the guesswork out of it. Basically, that's what we're really trying to get to. Now, if you're ready and you're ready for that per app access piece, which you do need to plan for at some point, whether it's now or a little bit later, we have some steps here as well. So this is how you actually get to zero trust network access. And once your pilot is complete, this is what you're going to walk through. You're going to create the application and scope it to either all users assigned to quick access, which is how automatic onboarding works if you move apps from quick access to enterprise apps, or you'll create it by hand and you will assign the specific users that you want to access that app. You'll assign your app segment, so an IP address or an FQDN, however you want your data acquisition to occur at the client. You'll ensure that traffic is flowing through those app segments. It's not appearing in quick access anymore. And you'll continue to create these applications until no app segments appear in quick access anymore. So let me go back to the slides. Again, really trying to emphasize how important it is to plan to transition from quick access to per app access. It is the entire point of private access. Enabling VPN replacement using quick access is the important first step. It's how you can do this quickly. And it's really important because I have actually talked, I would say probably every customer I've worked with does not know all of the applications that their users access over VPN. It will be impossible for them to just disable VPN and start doing per app access. So using quick access first enables them and enables you to start pulling out those app segments out of apps quick access and define that per app access with conditional access policies gradually. And you want to get to this so that you can eliminate any opportunity for unauthorized access to your applications, whether it's by bad actors or users who just really shouldn't have that access. That per app access is facilitated with application discovery. Application discovery feature integrates with quick access. It gives you a view of all the app segments that your users are accessing. So you'll be able to see what is actually still coming through quick access, and you can create the enterprise apps that move that out of quick access. But this is the goal, is no traffic is routed through quick access. So that covers the private access scenarios and deployment process. So just a few minutes to review internet access. Internet access provides that secure web gateway functionality. And here we see on this slide a few scenarios that it enables. It gives you a few options for securing your users when they access websites from your managed devices. You may have some requirements to block users who are using your managed devices from accessing specific categories of websites or specific FQDNs. Maybe you have a need for a baseline internet policy that applies to all of the users and environment. This is a really cool feature to enable you to block or allow access to everything that you want to block for all users, and you don't even need a conditional access policy to apply that. You can configure a block or allow scenario on web categories. Maybe you need to configure web category filtering controls on social media sites or alcohol and tobacco websites. Maybe you want to control specific access to FQDNs. You can do that too. And then you can also create security policies that enable you to sort of stack these together. So you have a baseline internet policy that applies to all users and blocks things, but then you can override that for a particular group of users. And you can even use PIM here too, where you can override that for a particular group of users only when they request that access. So as with private access, I want to move into our published guidance. Um, again, focused on the execute phase. So let me bring that up. So here in the TOC, I can see deploy global secure access for internet access. And you'll see it's very similar to the private access documentation. An overview of what internet access scenarios allow, which we just kind of talked about a second ago. How do you identify and plan for key use cases? Test and deploy internet access. And I really want to get down here to after your pilot is complete. This is the repeatable process. So very similar to private access, you're going to identify the groups that contain your wave of users, notify support of this wave and its included users, send those end user communications, assign these groups to your internet access traffic profile, deploy the global secure client global secure access client on these devices in this wave if you haven't already done that. And if you need to, you can create and configure more web content filtering policies to allow or block categories based on the use cases in your plan that are specific to these users. You can create more security profiles for this group. You can prioritize these policies based on your plans, and then create the conditional access policies that apply these to your groups in this wave. Test this again, update it if needed, iterate, initiate rollback plan if needed. But basically, deploy the client, test your configuration, update if needed, and iterate. That's what we're trying to do for all of these scenarios. So back to the slides. The last section of the deployment presentation I want to talk about is the Microsoft traffic component. And this is a component of the Internet Access Profile. It is a very cool feature that may already be in your existing licensing, and it's incredibly powerful functionality. It is traditionally very difficult to monitor Microsoft traffic, and it's something that a lot of companies are frustrated by because they have to exclude it from their VPN. They exclude it from other monitoring tools because of how heavy this traffic can be. So we're excited to be able to offer this to you, and it's especially cool that it might be in your existing licensing. This profile is also very cool because it's pre-configured with all of the app segments, which are the IP addresses and FQDNs that are needed to acquire traffic to Microsoft endpoints. And we are constantly adding to Microsoft endpoints. So today we have things like Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, OneDrive, Teams. It's already configured for you out of the box. All you have to do is enable this profile, roll out the GSA agent client, and apply it to users. Apply this profile to users, use conditional access policies, and then it's ready. So it enables some really interesting scenarios. You may want to implement universal tenant restrictions. This is a cool feature. We have some of this functionality already in Entra, but this one is specific to global secure access. It is a way for you to ensure that users using your managed devices are not able to log into other Microsoft tenants like SharePoint or Exchange, even when your users have valid credentials in those tenants. So this is helpful to protect against data exfiltration. The compliant network control gives a way for you to ensure that users can only access your Microsoft 365 applications when they're connecting using Global Secure Access. So they must be on your managed device and they must be coming through the GSA service. And this does reduce the risk of token theft and replay for Microsoft 365 applications. Another scenario that's interesting is source IP restoration. It's a way for the Global Secure Access Service to record the source IP address for your users, and then you can correlate the source IP address with your activity logs. It's really helpful if you get into threat hunting scenarios and incident response. And this is a feature you can configure with enriched Microsoft 365 logs in the Microsoft Traffic Profile. So just quickly with this one, as with the other traffic profiles and deployment scenarios, I'm just going to walk through the guidance real quickly, but it's very parallel to the others. So let me just pop this open. I see I have deploy global secure access for Microsoft traffic. And as you expect, we have a little overview of what this traffic profile is going to enable you to do. What are the key use cases that you want to identify and plan for? How do we recommend you test and deploy? Many of these things you will have already done because you've already gone through the earlier stages. And after you've completed your pilot, what does your repeatable process look like? So again, identifying the groups that your wave includes, the users and groups, notifying the support team, sending out communications, assigning these groups to the traffic forwarding profile, ensuring that the client is installed on user devices, configuring conditional access policies, and then iterate on this as needed to get through your waves. So that brings us to the end of the session. Hopefully you've had lots of great information and you can see some great support about how to think about your deployment planning. You may want to do things slightly differently. I want to remind you again, if you've missed the earlier sessions, please check out our 2 previous episodes, Is Global Secure Access Right for You? And the Proof of Concept Deep Dive sessions that we've already released. Feel free to check out our licensing page for any details. Please take a look at our full set of guidance. I was just walking you through a lot of it as part of this session. And also take a look at our Entra Suite webinars. We didn't talk too much about Entra Suite in this session. We do a little bit in the Is Global Secure Access Right for You session. But the Entra Suite is a group of products, like a product portfolio that includes global secure access, as well as identity governance and verified ID with face check and identity protection. It unlocks joiner, mover, leaver scenarios. So if you haven't really had exposure to Entra Suite, I recommend it. There are some licensing and pricing advantages if those other products are helpful for you, in addition to global secure access.
Great. Thank you so much, Janice. Oh, sorry, do you have more to go on?
Not really, just a
Okay.
little, please go out and learn more.
Yes, learning is always fantastic for everyone. And I just wanted to reiterate, I pasted the links to both of the past 2 sessions in the Q&A section, so you can look at that, as well as Jacqueline pasted the registration page, because 2 weeks from now we have another 425 show on key deployment considerations, so more deployment information, but key deployment considerations for Microsoft Entra External ID. But does anyone have any questions? You can pop them in the Q&A for Janice, and she'll do her best to answer them. I'll give you a couple minutes or seconds.
Maybe I answered questions so thoroughly as part of the session that everyone just knows exactly what to do.
Exactly. You're really good at your job, Janice. So that's, yeah.
I also want to say, please provide feedback on our guidance. If you take a look at our docs and you see a mistake, or you think I would do this differently, or some subtlety has been overlooked, please provide that guidance through the article itself. We do read these suggestions, we do take them to heart, and we make the changes to these articles as much as possible. So we really appreciate any feedback on them.
Awesome. All right, well, no one's popped anything into the Q&A, so I think we'll just call this good. And Janice, once again, thank you so much for coming on the 425 show.
Oh my
You've been
God,
a
thank
regular
you.
face here lately, so I've been loving it. Yes, come on
Also,
again.
look at all the girls.
Yes, look at us. We're doing, yeah.
Oh, thank you
Taking
so much,
names.
Hannah.
Of course, we love having you on here. And thank you for everyone that hopped on and listened today. And check out our past sessions as well on the 425 Show YouTube page. Have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you may be. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.